I'm Alana Jameson, attorney at law. Been working at Hugh Law School since 2004, and since 2011 I've been the course director for family practice and procedure. One of the topics that I'm mandated to teach is domestic violence. A protection order is set up to prevent the perpetrator from committing and continuing to commit a domestic violence offense. In reality, it does not put up a wall between the abused and the abuser. It literally is a piece of paper. If people are really intent on committing harm, it is not as effective as one would dream it to be. And that's the unfortunate thing about it. Some of them, the court would give greater weight when there's real threat to personal safety and life taking place, as opposed to verbal abuse, which I'm not at all saying is less problematic. But if somebody's life is at stake, the court is going to give precedence to that, and the court is never empty of a domestic violence matter. So that issue of how long it takes is really up to the court's list and the court's ability to manage everything that the court has to deal with. The court would consider whether there is any immediate threat to life and limb. Specifically, if children are involved and are threatened, that would be a severe, a weighty consideration that the court would take into account in making the order. And of course, the alleged abused has to prove that the acts alleged have in fact taken place. So proper evidence would have to be put before the court. It's always helpful if there are medical reports in the case of physical abuse. Of course, there are some territories that look at other types of abuse, like financial and emotional. Once that evidence is brought before the court and the court accepts it, then the alleged perpetrator would be found liable and a protection order would be granted. The core of why both men and women, more women, would remain in an abusive relationship is purely financial. If a woman or a man could find himself or herself in a place where they can provide for themselves and for their children, they would not stay there. There's also the issue of emotional baggage that those people may have suffered from childhood, where they have low self-esteem and they lack self-worth and they think this is the best that I could get. But a lot of these people are really victims in the true sense of the word, and they find themselves feeling very trapped with no one to turn to, nowhere to go, no place to live. I am disappointed always when I see an abused person go back to the abuser, because I know that the history has shown, my experience in terms of interacting with these types of matters has shown that the abuse escalates at an alarming rate if you go back, because basically the barrier has been removed and the abuser knows that you're just bluffing. The abuser knows that he or she has the upper hand, and so the real trouble starts. So it's very disheartening for me, but I don't think it is in my place to intervene. These people have to get the help that clearly they need so that they can make their own decision to chart their future. Either the man or the woman is the one that has to go to the magistrate's court and speak to the justice of the peace and say, I have been abused, and the justice of the peace takes the information to then understand what that summons needs to be worded, how it needs to be worded. So therefore, the man in the street, the most they could do is encourage, but they can't initiate any kind of action. They could be called as a witness, but really and truly, the way the system is set up, the abused is the one that has to run with it. And unfortunately, a large percentage of these abused persons have difficulty in doing that. We need to fix the present pieces of legislation as they are. Trinidad and Tobago already has had one amendment, but I am saying that that's not enough. We need to do more, and certainly for some of my Caribbean brothers and sisters out there, there needs to be active agitation, because people are literally losing their lives because the framework isn't certain, and it says a lot about society when it doesn't take care of their women and children, because the facts show that women are definitely in larger numbers the victims of domestic violence, and the children have no voice. The penalty for breach is the perpetrators have to think twice. If I breach this order, this is what's going to happen. And I would like the 5-year imprisonment to be on your first breach, and it escalates from there. I don't think fining assists, because what happens to the rich offender, that does not touch him or her at all. Even the person who does not have the money, they may have family who has money, and therefore that doesn't help. So I'm not in agreement at all with fining. I'm in agreement with having the liberty of the offender curtailed. There are no support systems in our societies to help people with conflict resolution. Now we are starting to talk a lot more about mediation and conciliation, and I'm very happy for that. But in terms of really having that support for mental health in particular, it's too expensive to approach a psychologist and say I'm cracking up. Most people are outside of that category, and there is not enough. More can be done for these professionals to be paid by the state to tap into the Rockefeller types of foundations abroad and say, we have a problem here. There has been no data that I am aware of to say how many of these perpetrators really are mentally ill. How many of these perpetrators were victims of abuse themselves? I have not seen any inquiry. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I have not seen any full-scale investigation into this, and therefore, if we have an understanding as to the cause, then we could work towards stopping it in the first place. I'm suggesting that our social support and our churches and synagogues and mosques and temples need to get more involved, so that the God factor for those who believe in God can be discussed. My message to you, young man, young woman, older man, that child who may see this, there is help out there for you. There are a few NGOs out there who are working tirelessly. There is the Rape Crisis Center. There are safe homes out there. And even if you don't want to go as far as that, your magistrate's court around the corner, the Justice of the Peace is there, the Clerk of the Peace is there for you to tell your issue. Get the strength. Don't sit in silence. Talk to your mother, your father, your sister, members of your community, in terms of your temple, your mosque, your church. There may be within that structure some way for you to get housing, clothing, food, to live separate and apart from your abuser. The worst thing that you can do is to continue to take it, because there may be that unlucky blow where you find yourself 6 feet under or on a pyre somewhere burning, and there's nothing that you could do when you're dead. So the ultimate end for people who stay silent, as we can see in the newspaper, is death. And don't make yourself a statistic. There is help there for you. Just reach out and take it and get the strength to move forward. And tomorrow will be a better day, a brighter day.